So, you've got your sights set on going global, right? Well, you've probably heard of this one big exam that can pretty much unlock the entire world for you, the IELTS. Today, we're going to break it all down, piece by piece. Let's get right into it.
I mean, who hasn't daydreamed about it? Maybe you see yourself studying in London, or you're picturing a new job in Toronto, or maybe you're just ready for a fresh start in Sydney. If any of that sounds like you, then you are in exactly the right place.
And you know, that massive dream usually starts with one single really important step. We're not going to look at the IELTS exam as some scary hurdle. Instead, think of it as the key that unlocks all those international doors. It's basically your passport to proving you're ready to take on the world.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what IELTS is and why everyone trusts it. Then, we'll figure out which version of the test is right for you. We'll clear up who can take it, look inside the exam itself, share some killer tips for a high score, and finally, we'll talk about what your score actually means for your future.
So let's kick things off with a big question. Why does this one test matter so much?
Well, the name kind of says it all, doesn't it? International English Language Testing System. It's pretty much the gold standard for figuring out how well you can listen, read, write, and speak English in the real world, like in a university classroom or just chatting with new colleagues at work.
And check out this number, because this is where you really see its power. Over 12,500 organizations all over the planet. We're talking top universities, governments, huge global companies, they all trust the IELTS score. That's why we call it a passport. It's accepted almost everywhere.
Okay, now for your first major decision. You see, there isn't just one IELTS test, and you've got to pick the right one for what you want to do. It's absolutely crucial. Let's break down the two main options.
Honestly, the choice is super straightforward. It all comes down to your goal. If you're planning to go to university for a degree, you're going to take the academic test. But if you're looking to work, get some job training, or immigrate, then the general training test is the one for you. See? Simple as that.
All right, so who can actually sign up for this thing? A lot of people get worried about the requirements, but we're about to bust some myths because it's probably way simpler than you think.
This is easily one of the most common questions we see. People worry, am I too young or am I too old for this? So what's the real story?
So while there's no official hard and fast rule, the general recommendation is that you should be at least 16. And that's just because the topics and the language on the test are really geared towards situations you'd face in higher education or a professional setting.
And here is the absolute best part. There is zero, zilch, no maximum age limit. It doesn't matter if you're 25, 45, or 65. If you've got a dream that needs an English test, IELTS is ready for you. It's your ambition that counts, not your age.
And it gets even better. The exam is super accessible. IELTS itself doesn't care if you have a certain degree or what your grades were. Nope. The only requirements that matter are the ones from the place you're applying to. So, your university or the immigration department. They're the ones who set the academic standards, not the test.
Okay, so you've picked your test, you know you're eligible. Now let's pull back the curtain and look at the exam itself. Yeah, it's about 3 hours long, but when you see how it's broken down, it's actually not that intimidating at all.
Here's the whole thing in one snapshot. You've got 4 sections. First is listening, which takes about 40 minutes total. Then you get a full hour for reading and another hour for writing. Those 3 happen all in one go, back to back. The speaking test is a really short, face-to-face chat, only about 11 to 14 minutes, and it might happen on the same day or a different day entirely. Each part tests a totally different skill.
Look, knowing the format is half the battle, for sure. But now let's talk about how you can really crush it. This is where we go from what the test is to how you can conquer it.
Here's a 4-step playbook for success. 1. Know the test inside out. 2. Just surround yourself with English every single day. 3. And this is so important, practice with a timer. You have to get used to the pressure. And 4. Practice speaking by recording yourself. I know, it feels a little weird at first, but trust me, it's a game changer for fluency. And just as crucial as what to do is what not to do. So please avoid these classic mistakes. Don't write under the word count. Don't give super short one-word answers in the speaking test. Don't get stuck on a really hard question in the reading section. Just move on. And make sure your essay actually answers every single part of the question.
So, you've done it. You survived the test, and the results are here. So, now what? Let's decode what that score actually means and what you can do with it.
The scoring system is actually pretty simple. You get a score, which they call a band, from 0 to 9 for each of the 4 skills. Then they average those out to get your overall band score. A 9 is an expert user,
and something like a 6 is considered a competent user.
So what's a good score? Well, for a lot of the most popular countries like Canada, the US, the UK, and Australia, you're usually aiming for something between a 6.0 and a 7.0. But just remember, the really top-tier universities might ask for even higher, so you always have to check with them directly.
And this is a hugely important detail for your planning. Your IELTS score is valid for exactly 2 years from your test date. So timing is everything, right? You got to make sure your score is still good to go when you're ready to send in those applications.
You know, this really brings it all back home. All the practice, the stress, the test itself, it's all for this one thing. The IELTS isn't the final destination. It's the vehicle, the passport, that gets you where you want to go.
We've laid out the entire map for you from what this thing is to how you can succeed. The path is pretty clear. So really, the only question left is the one right there on your screen. What's your first step going to be? Thanks so much for joining us.